Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be here today to discuss the report. I'm Mary Quay, the Associate Commissioner for Market Regulation and Professional Licensing at the MIA. Athos, my co-chair, is on vacation today. Dixit is here to help out from the Department of Health. So thank you for that, Dixit. Okay, I'd like to go over the standard housekeeping procedures. When it is time for public comments, we will call first on members of the work group. As we go through the report sections, I will have some time for members of the work group to comment. And then at the end, I will open it up to other stakeholders or members of the audience on the call. And no one was pre-registered to talk, so you can communicate with us through the chat function or raise your hand as a participant, and we will admit you to speak. The MIA will keep the record open until November 14th, 2025 for additional written comments. The video of today's meeting, as well as all written testimony submitted, will be posted on the MIA's website. To help ensure excellent sound quality throughout the meeting, we ask that you please stay on mute unless you are speaking. Also, anytime before speaking, if you could restate your name and organization clearly, that would be a great help. And we can move to the agenda. Craig, do you want to put up the slides? We only have a couple, largely at the end to provide the email address. Okay.
Forgive me, I'm having some technical difficulties. I apologize.
Okay. I was not planning on sharing the report on my screen because it can be hard to follow. It's small print and it is available on our website for people to follow along with, and the members of the work group should have received the report. And yes, the link is in the chat. Again, welcome everyone. Next slide, please. As I said, that is mostly to give the date and the email address to submit written comments. Our agenda for today is to go through the interim report. It is primarily a recap of what we have done, rather than making policy decisions at this point or recommendations at this point. Given that we started in August, I believe, it summarizes what we have covered. And so it starts with an introduction and executive summary that basically state these are the three things that we have covered as topics. Are there any comments from the work group about those sections? The introduction and the executive summary. Okay. The background section goes into more detail about the things that we have discussed. And it goes over the specialty drug statute that the MIA enforces with respect to commercial risk plans, and also touches on the COMAR regulations that MDH has for MCOs or Medicaid. Am I summarizing that correctly, Dixit? Okay. And then it goes into a recap of what we discussed with regards to ERISA. Our general counsel put on a presentation about ERISA and the cases that have been prominently featured in our discussions that have been discussed amongst insurance companies and regulators. And I know that how to apply ERISA is a topic of great concern for many of the people who commented. So please let me know if you have any comments on this section, which is intended as a recap. And then finally, it touches on 15.16.11.1 of the insurance article and 15.16.12 of the insurance article. And we will be looking at those in more detail later. So any comments from the work group about those?
I have one comment. I guess it's more of a question. I know that some of the pharmacist stakeholders had submitted information, which I think were intended to be comments. But in reading the report, it doesn't seem that those are reflected. And so my question is, can the report be modified to make reference that comments were submitted? Or in the future, is there a different format that they should be submitted so that they're recognized in the report?
Okay, I apologize if they were overlooked, but we do intend to attach all the comments as appendices so that we are presenting a complete picture, but we can certainly look at explicitly recognizing that. We'll take
Thank
that
you.
back and talk about it.
Because I saw some of the other organizations were referenced, but the groups I'm thinking of were not, including MPHA. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, we want it, the purpose of exposing this is to get that kind of comment, make sure that we are fairly representing everyone's views on the work group. Okay, the next part of the report, it talks about the work group. The members of the work group, we will include in the appendix a full list of the membership and then a summary of the meetings. Are there any comments from members of the work group about that? Okay, and then we talk about what we will be doing in 2026. And the plans for next year, and then the conclusion section. Do we have comments on those parts of the report? Yes, Andy.
Hey, this is Andy from the Prescription Drug Affordability Board. One, just wanted to give amazing kudos to the teams that drafted the report and appreciated the chance to look at it. I have kind of an overarching comment, and I guess it primarily goes to the first section and maybe the last section, kind of going over the work. But I feel like the report did a really good job on kind of like the objective or like kind of stating the facts of like what the mission was, what the policies are, and things like that. But I think there was still room for kind of giving the why. So like, why did the General Assembly think that we needed to create this group? What are the like issues that these policies are causing that the work group can be looking at? I think the main, I guess, caution I would just flag on that is a lot of that narrative would probably be very subjective, which I think you may have been trying to, I'm not sure if we wanted to avoid that in this kind of report or forum, but I guess just overall, if there's any way we can kind of get into the weeds and read between the lines on the why and the actual like lay description of what we're being asked to try to address. And I guess that also kind of feeds into my other comment in that, like, we work on this stuff all the time. So I thought the report read really nicely, but I think if you just handed this to any, even like policy person, if they weren't familiar with the issues around pharmacy benefit managers and ERISA and things like that, there would be a lot that they would still have questions about, basically. So I was just wondering if we could maybe fill in some of those gaps in a future iteration of the report.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you for that comment, and welcome Delegate Cullison.
Thank you, Mary. Sorry, I'm a little late.
Oh, we are happy to have you. Okay, so any additional overall comments from the working group? Okay. Yes, Brian, please.
Just one overarching comment. I think that we really made absolutely no recommendations for how we can address any of these issues in 2026. I find that to be disappointing, that we've held this many meetings and we have no direction for the current upcoming legislative session. It leaves groups like mine in a place where we're probably gonna, have to try to figure it out on our own, where we were hoping there might be some direction from the work group. So just my overall disappointment in that is what I'd like to express. I think we really didn't get much done for the number of meetings that we've had.
Well, I am certainly open to input on that from any others on the work group. Any responses?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll back, oh, sorry, I can't find my hand. I will back that up. I think we were really hoping that this work group was going to have the recommendations so that we would have some steps to take for this legislative session because we have some real challenges that need to be addressed. And so we essentially are going to miss the 2026 session, which would implement something for 2027. So now we're in 2028, really. And that's concerning for the pharmacies and their ability to stay open due to the impacts of the PBM practices that we have right now.
Can you give me some ideas of what you were thinking of in terms of recommendations?
Well, for me, that goes back to some earlier comments we had at the beginning of the work group that we had hoped that the agenda was flipped and that we were talking about the reimbursement rates and some of the contracting provisions this year so that we would have something to work on for the 2026 legislative session, and that some of the, like the ERISA conversation would have been later. And I believe, and many of our members believe, that we could potentially have made some impact for the next session. So right now that kind of leaves us in a bit of a bind, I think. Because if we do come forward with legislation, and I don't want to, put this out there, but I guess I have to, if we put some legislation out, I think all the opposition is going to say, you've got this work group, the work group is committed to working in 2026. So why are we going to waste time when the work group is going to give recommendations? So that it's delayed what we were hoping to accomplish with some steps forward.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Steve?
Yeah, going back to sort of Brian's comments, Aaliyah's comments, the issues that the work group that we've discussed are very, very challenging issues. I don't pretend to be in the legislation, but I imagine one of the reasons that they formed the work group is because there's been repeated legislation year after year after year. And I would imagine they wanted some input from people, stakeholders, but also regulators, people in the industry. And we've done a very nice review, and the report lists all the different, perspectives. I think the legislature has heard those perspectives for 5 to 6 years of legislation and testimony. And their goal, and again, I'm not a legislator, maybe they have some input, but the goal, I think, was to get some recommendations, probably not just a review of the same issues that they hear two sides about. And that's what it appears we've done. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the role that the legislature had for their work group, and maybe I'm misinterpreting what we're submitting, but we're giving a very nice review of what they've heard for 5 years from one side versus another, without a whole lot of recommendations. I hope they find it valuable. I don't know. So I appreciate the input.
Thank you. Darren?
Yeah, thank you. I apologize that I wasn't at the last meeting, but maybe to everybody's point here that's commented, and I don't know again how important the issue of defining specialty drug is to the groups, but it seems from the last meeting that was a big discussion, and it seems like there was some, I'll say, movement or some, I don't know whether it's agreement or not, to look at that. So could there be some additional recommendation from maybe the MIA based on some of the comments as to how a definition of specialty would be updated going forward? That might be something then that could be in the legislature this session as something coming out of the group. Again, I don't know where on the tiering of that priority it is, but at least it would be something that at least was addressing an issue. So just a comment, I apologize, I wasn't at that meeting, but it is something obviously that pharma would also be interested in. And I think if it's something that could be worked on, I think at least that would address potentially the issue of not doing anything for sort of 2 years, something like that. So that'd be my comment.
Okay, thank you. And I think part of the charge is to look at specialty drugs and to gather more information across carriers and across formulary lists. And certainly we would love to receive more comments about how we can effectively do that. So that we will be in a better position as we move forward to make those recommendations. And we talked about where we are with specialty drugs, and Delegate Cullison made some very helpful comments about what we should consider. And I think that is something we want to explore further and to fulfill our charge with regard to the specialty drugs and looking at the information across formularies and across carriers. Scott?
I just concur. I think the recommendations are important. If you look at not with just this state, but several states, when you get a high level talking points around legislation, the talking points and the actual written language don't actually match up. So the intent and the actual language don't are not I guess on par with each other. So I think it's important as we work through this that we help them understand what the details that have to be in there to make the intent actually come out in the written policy.
Okay, thank you. And Stephanie?
Hi, Stephanie Katz with NACDS. Just to emphasize the importance of the specialty definition, I think Jill McCormick on NACDS's behalf provided some information of what an appropriate amendment would look like. But I just want to emphasize to the group, and I know many of you know here, but how important it is to look at that definition, because as rebates have been more highly scrutinized in the PBM space, PBM's extracted profit margins have gone from primarily rebates and fees to now the primary driver of PBM profits is specialty drugs. It has been an entirely massive shift in the last 4 years from where they're extracting their profit margin in order to combat the rebate scrutiny that we're seeing. We can provide you a slide if you're interested in looking at where that data is coming from. It's coming from 3 Axis Advisors out of Ohio, which I know has been discussed in this group and is well known. So just really want to emphasize how important that is, that to get ahead of this specialty definition is the key to ensuring that prices come down across the system and the state.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more comments?
Miriam, I can't find my hand either.
That's okay.
I really appreciate this discussion, and I think, Darren is onto something here. There wouldn't be any reason for this group not to recommend that that there be an and it can be a separate group. It doesn't have to be this group, but that sole charge is to look at the definition of specialty drugs and how they're implemented. Because I think those are going to take, if I remember what happened with Chair Hammond, those were hours and hours of meetings, and with that initial definition, and looking at the federal definition as well. So I would think that we could, we could have a piece of legislation that creates the group that's going to bring the definition back to us, and can bring it back to this group, if that's something that a recommendation that folks would agree to.
Yes, Kim, and thank you. Kim?
Thank you, Mary. I don't know why my camera won't start properly. And I apologize, I was a little bit late joining the conversation. Trying to understand some of the recent comments that I've heard around the specialty definition. It's clear, obviously, there's a lot of energy around wanting to look at it. I think is from the payer perspective, we too are very sensitive to it, because we know that ultimately a definition that ends up increasing the cost to payers actually increases the cost to our members. And so I think that it's not a definition to be changed lightly. Now, I guess my reading of what this group was charged with being able to do would seem that this is the group who should be continuing this work through the rest of the term of this working group to look at that definition. It sounds like there's been some discussion of creating yet another separate group to look at it. I'm not clear if that's what's being contemplated. I feel like all the same people who are in the boxes that I'm looking at would want to be the same people who are in yet another group to do it. So I'm not sure if it makes sense that there needs to be a separate group separate from the same group to do that. But I would hope that at least it is a well thought out and deliberative process, because there are certainly going to be big consequences from a cost perspective to Marylanders if that definition goes awry.
Thank you, Kim. And I have been told that Senator Bidel would like, oh, I'm sorry, Delegate Collison.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to follow up from what Kim was saying. I think part of the motivation is the issues that this work group are dealing with are all very complex. And what we've done is laid the initial understanding and framework for all of the issues. So now what I'm recommending is that there be a group that is solely focused on that one issue. So the time would be completely dedicated to that one issue, and with the charge of a specific recommendation after the conversation. And we can talk about who is on that group. We could even make that a recommendation regarding that group. So it's like I said, I'm deferring to the group itself.
And thank you for that suggestion. I understand Senator Bidel is also on the phone and would like to speak. If you can unmute yourself, I'm not sure if Craig, if you can offer some technical assistance.
Mary,
There
this
you
is
are.
Pam Bidel.
Thank
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't get a participant code for this. So I've been listening as the public, but haven't been able to comment. I will say I agree with the comments about recommendations, and as Chair Senate Finance, we were really hoping to have some recommendations, particularly on the ERISA issue. Someone stated earlier, it's been like 4 years we keep getting this bill about putting, I guess, a fee schedule for drugs on the ERISA contracts. And I was looking forward to some additional information about that issue. So thanks for letting me have a minute.
And thank you for joining us. I'm sorry, we seem to have had some problems with the links today. Okay, do we have any other comments? We still have time if you want to discuss this further. Okay, so I think we have some things to take back, and we will look at making those edits to the report. I thank everyone for taking the time to look it over and to come ready to discuss it and to share your thoughts. We really do want input, and so we will look at how we can make some recommendations and some edits here. And then circulate it again and hopefully still be on time submitting it. So one last call for comments. And thank you, everyone.